At times, we are interested in subtotals. Subtotals are pretty useful and powerful for summarizing data in a table. For example, if we have 3 departments whereby we'd like to have a total for each one of these departments' budget, and we have them all scattered through our table, we can create a subtotal for each of these 3 departments by using subtotal. In our example, which we recently used with the students, even though we don't have dollars and cents to add up here, but we can have subtotals for the full and part-time students. We can have a count for each category. We can have a subtotal for the gender, for male and female, and this can be quite useful in order to do some analysis on the table. Let's see how this works. Just a few pieces of preliminary information so we know what we're doing when we go to subtotals. Number 1 is Excel requires that you sort the table on the field on which the subtotals will be based. As very often it is not sorted, and we would have to first sort it to get this started. That's number 1. Number 2, we have to convert the table to a range. This is quite easy, but have to illustrate how this is being done. And then we use the subtotal button on the data tab in order to do what we want to do. So really they're just those 3 things. Just for definition purposes, the field on which you sort prior to clicking the subtotal button is called the control field. Okay, so I think we're ready to go, and let's demonstrate that with our table. So let's look at our table. We're going to create a subtotal based on the status. So to do that, let's look at status. Let's bring our cursor over here. Let's click on sort, and we'll sort by status to get things going. That's our first step. And click on status. Let's click on OK, and now we see status the full and part-time. That is step number 1. Step number 2 is we are going to change our table to a range. We're going to convert it. Let's right click and go down to where it says table. One choice there says convert to range. Click on that. Do you want to convert the table to a normal range? We will say yes. We have now done step number 2. Step number 3, we will go to data, and we will click on subtotal, and we're going to choose which subtotal. In this case, we're going to be choosing status. Let's click on that, and we want to change it as follows. Where it says at each change in, we're going to have a change when it reaches a change in gender. Let's click on that, and that offhand should be enough. Use function count. We're going to use how many are in each, but there are other ones as well, but we'll just use count. Let's click OK, and let's see what we have over here. We see that our table now is broken up as such. We have the full-timers, gender, there are 9 full-timers, and there are 2 full-timers who are male. Same thing for the part-timers. We have 7 that are female and 2 that are male. We can see different representations of this as follows. On the left-hand side, we have an outline which we can click on, and watch what happens as we reduce the information. And now it has summarized it in a little different sense. Just the male, female. And let's take a look further, and we can reduce it again for a different representation of it. And we can reduce it again. And again. So this is a very concise summary of the status: 9 female, 2 male, 7 female, 2 male. And in order to see more information about it, we would have to open it up to see the status, which is part-time. Further, let's open a little further, and finally the most. So depending on what you want to illustrate and demonstrate, you have the power to control the subtotals to demonstrate what you want to show. If I decide I really don't want to change at each where it's gender, but I just want it to be change at status, I can make this simpler and go back and look for status and click on that, and you will see the result now will be simpler. And now what we see is full-time, part-time, 11 full-time, 9 part-time, and again we can experiment to see what we saw earlier. And now we have a quick summary, 11 and 9. That's what we saw earlier as well. And then we can expand it further, and we can enjoy and experiment with this very powerful technique of subtotals. One very important thing to note, it's one thing having the subtotals, but maybe we want to get rid of them. So we just go to the subtotal choice, and one of the choices there is remove all. Click on that, and we are now back to where we were.